So this sets off one of the great battles over archaeology in modern times, almost as vociferous as the original arguments over the Dead Sea Scrolls, which of course are still going on today. Were the Dead Sea Scrolls written by the Essenes? Was it the library of the temple in Jerusalem that the library was removed and taken to safety when the Romans were closing and whatever? So there's still arguments about the Dead Sea Scrolls today. So eventually the guy who owned this bone box and brought it to Andre Lemaire and said, do you think this is real or not? Well, it turns out he had some issues in his past, and some of them may have had to do with selling relics on the marketplace, which might not have been entirely provable as to their provenance. And how am I doing? I'm being careful about this. So the Israeli Antiquities Authority took this guy to court and said they were going to prove that this was a forgery, and then they wanted this guy in jail. They said this guy was a forger and they wanted him in jail. Well, wow. The one thing I'll say for the Israeli Antiquities Authority is when you're willing to put it on the line in a court where people are sworn, perjury laws and all that, well, that's a big deal. So that meant when these experts were coming in and testifying, they were under oath. They theoretically could have been prosecuted for perjury. So this trial starts. The trial winds on for 4 years, if you can believe it. 4 years. So now I'm going to read you some quotes. Now this is from Herschel Shanks, of course, when the whole trial just collapsed. He was very gleeful that this had happened because he totally supports the idea that this is a legitimate engraving. The forgery trial of the century has all but blown up. The trial judge who will decide the case has told the prosecution to consider dropping the case. The judge told the prosecutor, not every case ends in the way you think it will when you start. Maybe we can save ourselves the rest, the judge told the prosecutor. In other words, he'd sat there for 4 years. As far as he was concerned, the prosecution, which is the Israeli Antiquities Authority, had not come close to proving their case. So he said, I have stuff to do. Can we just announce that you haven't proven your case, and then can I go to the Bahamas or something? So when the judge tells the prosecution in an open courtroom after 4 years that you haven't proven your case, this is why Herschel Shanks said that it had all but blown up. The story was reported by Matthew Coleman in the San Francisco Chronicle. He described the judge's evaluation as a humiliating collapse of the government's case and a major embarrassment for the Israeli Antiquities Authority. The government's star witness was Yuval Goren, former chairman of Tel Aviv University's Institute of Archaeology. He was forced to admit on cross-examination that there is original ancient patina in the word Jesus. The last word in the inscription that reads, Jesus, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. This is what the whole trial, this is the fulcrum of the whole trial, that the Antiquities Authority was claiming there was no patina. And so they bring in their expert, and under cross-examination he says, well, yeah, there was some patina there. Recent events have also proved humiliating for the Israeli Antiquities Authority. In connection with a committee it appointed, it supposedly came to a unanimous decision that the inscription is a forgery. When they announced 5 years ago now, 6 years ago now, that this was a forgery, they claimed that the whole committee had examined the question and the whole committee had voted unanimously that this was a forgery. So now it looks like Herschel Shanks and Andre Lemaire are these isolated people over here, but this academic committee, governmental committee, had announced it was a forgery. In fact, several members of the committee expressed no opinion, but the IAA counted them as yes votes. No, that's not sleazy. Several other members of the committee based their vote not on their own expertise, but on Yuval Goren's supposed expertise. which they were in no position to evaluate. So in other words, they voted that it was a forgery, but they were basing it on this one guy from Tel Aviv University who later admitted under cross-examination that, well, there was ancient patina. One member of the committee who would have found the inscription authentic said he was forced to change his mind. Paleographer, expert in the script of this period, has found any paleographical problem with the inscription. It says Biblical Archaeology Review has consistently supported the authenticity of the inscription, as have Andre Lemaire and Ada Yardeni of Hebrew University. All appear now to be vindicated, and then it says nanny nanny boo boo. No, it doesn't actually say that. If this is real, do you see how stupendous this is? It is by far the oldest archaeological artifact that refers to Jesus Christ. So if this is real, if this is not a forgery, this is a vitally important relic, not an archaeological relic, not a relic in the sense of the Holy Grail and that sort of thing, but in terms of proving that Jesus actually existed, actually walked on this earth. This is by far the oldest one. Because, you know, you get into the 2nd century, 3rd century, Jesus' name pops up on everything. But this is 62 or 63 AD. The Christians are on the run. I mean, Paul and Peter are about to be captured and slaughtered by Nero. James the Just is thrown off of the temple and clubbed or stoned to death. I mean, the Christians are on the run. Things are falling apart here. And here we have this bone box that seemingly refers to James the Just being the brother of Jesus.
This was produced before it became fashionable to manufacture artifacts.
Right, oh, sure.
Like it was in the Middle Ages.
Right. My view is the bone box is authentic. The inscription is authentic, even though I do think it's possible that it might have been added later. But that doesn't make it a forgery. That just means somebody said, you know, we ought to identify that this is the James, not just any James.
And as you said, they were being persecuted at this time. Maybe we didn't want to mess with this box, so we just put James, son of Joseph.
As the original.
Mess with it. Oh no, let's go ahead and, you know, add the other thing.
So, I think the bone box is legitimate. I think the inscription is legitimate. Does that prove that this is the Jesus of the Bible? Not absolutely. But the fact that it was unusual to add a brother on these bone boxes, and in this case they did, to me adds some impetus to the idea that there was something special about this James and this Jesus, which from our point of view then becomes, well, what was special about him? And well, if it's about our Jesus, then he was the Messiah and the Son of God. So I don't think it's a slam dunk, but I think this is real. I don't think it's a forgery. And this may be the oldest reference, archaeological reference we have to Jesus Christ.